Oh yeah, he's frozen.
All right, so now the recording started. Okay, so here we are. Welcome everyone to Dallas Personal Robotics Group. Tonight is the 14th of July. We're coming at you from Dallas and some from Pennsylvania and as far away as New Zealand. So wherever you are, we hope you enjoy our discussion tonight. With that, I'm going to just go on mute. And now that we have John here, hopefully, John, you can let people in if they show up. But I'm going to have to separate and not participate too much tonight. So
Right.
hope you guys have a nice discussion, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay. No, you're not muted, John, but we can't hear you.
So can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I got a new headset. Hopefully it doesn't. In theory, the mic is better on it. So
Yeah.
versus
Well,
the
good.
computer.
Do you want to lead the meeting then?
Well, in my case, I have really nothing I did other than Saturday. I attend our monthly meeting that we had, and it was a good presentation. So I don't know if we have had the tape out there or not yet, but if it is out there, I will recommend for those who hadn't seen it to go review it.
That was the robot operating system discussion?
Yes, the Ross.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
Ross.
that's Blue doing that. It was really cool. I mean, some of the stuff I didn't know about some of this. I knew about some of it, but I didn't know about some of it. Like others, like the mixed reality stuff, where it was using like HoloLens and other mixed reality type things to show you a lidar spread because you're reading a topic off the lidar topic, so you can see what the lidar is seeing. And literally, it looked like a big flower coming out of the middle of the lidar. And as things hit or came back, it would give you the thing, so you can see what your robot sees. And what he said was, that's a virtual thing, but if you're doing a real mixed reality, like in a HoloLens, you'll see the robot, and you'll see that splay out going around it about what it's seeing and what it's doing on that. And I'm like, and that's a pretty cool representation of what's going on there, I thought. So lots of fun stuff there.
Now, Harold, when you say what the robot's seeing, it's not actually a camera view, but it's a view of the sort of distance.
You're seeing the data visualized. You're seeing the data visualized in your field of view through the mixed reality headset.
Well,
it can know where the robot is and know what data it's getting back and superimposes that data in a graphical fashion.
Oh wow! Yep.
Yeah, well, they have basically two type, multiple sensor. One is the radar, and the other thing is the Connect. And he mentioned the fact that they're having the Connect 4 come out. If you remember the Connect 2, so that's where you can have the visual, interface in there.
Cool. So, John, you haven't had much. You haven't had any progress in the last week, basically.
No, I didn't do any program whatsoever. Instead, I did your work.
Well, okay. I guess we'll move on. Harold, what have you been up to? You're back in the shop, it looks like.
Yeah. What happened last week on my computer? Luckily, I'm not in Australia, so I do have computer stores close to me with hardware and stuff. Sorry. And Alexa. Okay. No, Alexa, no, stop. Her wake word is computer. I changed it because I'm a Star Trek geeky thing. So what happened last week where I kept losing? I thought something was massively wrong with my computer that I do all of this stuff on, and so I looked it up. I want to do a minimal replacement of what I had. So I said it could be power supply. I narrowed it down to the motherboard, and I just put some new memory in the thing. So maybe that was it. So, but I narrowed it all the way down to power supply and motherboard, and see if I could get away with that. they have it in stock. So we managed to have enough stuff in stock where I could get away with that. And when I was switching out the motherboard, when I pulled out the motherboard that's currently in the, now the machine has a new motherboard. The old motherboard's over here, but it's perfectly fine. But since I got a new one, and me taking things back, I'm not a big fan of necessarily, and I wanted the new hotness, so I got the upgrade there. But I don't know how this thing was working. I honestly don't, because I got the motherboard out onto the desk. After I took off the heatsink fan, and I went to go with my towel clean off all the other thermal grease so it doesn't get everywhere, and because I got to replace it anyway. I get the grease off the heatsink fan, and I go to get the grease off the CPU, and the CPU in its zero insertion force socket is doing this number. And I'm like, it's moving around. And so I lift the lever, seat it down, and put it back, and it drops right in. And so what was happening is that I was losing connectivity and losing all the stuff because that CPU, it came loose, and of course it shut itself down.
Sure.
Yeah, you know, makes sense there, right? And what amazes to me is, how did that ever work? The only thing I can think of is that heatsink fan has got some springs, and when you tighten it down on it, that's got some tension on it to hold it flat.
Yeah.
That maybe there was enough thermal grease on there to hold it in there, and it's been that way for a couple of years. So maybe the grease dried out enough, and then I got in and jostled it with them doing the memory and moved things just enough to break it free, and now I've started having these problems.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm running on everything but the new motherboard, which I could have put the old one back in and did it back. I'm running on it. It's been stable as all get out, and all the memories in it, and all that's fine. It's just that's what my problem was. And who would have thought? I mean, how, you know, that it worked all that time, and now decided to not.
Well, I think you just learned the rules. Just don't mess with anything. If it's working, don't mess with it.
Yeah, but because when I was out of memory, I need memory in a worse way to do what I need to do. Sure. I was running on my 8 gig machine. I was running like 7 gig of it plus a little bit the entire time, and I'm like, okay. And so that's what broke down to do that, and then of course sent me down the rails. And of course, who you talking to in this crew that says, if it's working, don't mess with it? You know, who is gonna? Who you talking about? Your audience, man.
Yeah, wrong audience.
Yeah, wrong.
Yes, charged.
But anyway, and I managed to get after listening to Lou a little bit, and had a little bit of an epiphany about what's going on. The ROS 2 stuff on my Raspberry Pi, I managed to this week twitch out every one of the beginner command line tutorials for setting up PubSub, setting up a client server, and even making your own custom message in it. And it just went really, really smooth. If I read better and didn't type wrong, it would have been just perfect. But I plan on doing some more of that tonight, so I'm doing it on a Windows platform instead of a instead of a Linux platform, just for my own edification and to get some more practice about doing these things. Because the 16-channel servo controller, guess what? There's not one for ROS 2. There's not a node that knows how to control that thing. So I would think there's plenty of stuff for ROS 1 up there, but not ROS 2. And there's already a C++ file out there that knows how to do all the right things. It just needs to be ported over and made a new package for ROS 2 with the other things it needs to do. And I figured that would be a pretty decent first step to try to do that for a package, contribute to the community, all that sort of stuff, if I can. So
okay, cool. Looks like we got Ray back again, maybe.
Yeah.
That sounds great, Harold. That would be a real good contribution to the community.
Yeah, I would like to think so, because there's one thing that Lou was I don't know, I got lots of fun stuff out of that meeting, but one of the things that was overriding is that most of the folks underneath him and the people he's working with is concentrated on industry and making sure industry has all the things they need, and not that they don't care about us little guys, but it's just that there's certain, we're not going to go out and go buy a $10,000 arm to go do something. Well, Murray might, because, well, he's Murray. But now I'm not going to be able to do that.
All that extra cash just lying around.
Yeah, you do. I'm just picking at you, Murray, because I know you can take it, right? I'm just picking at you. So, and so I'm thinking to myself that maybe I can contribute a little bit to the lower end realm of things on the stuff and see. I don't know how far I can get. I really don't. But we're gonna. It seems like a worthwhile pursuit to at least try.
You don't know until you try, so that's good.
Right. And that means I got a lot more C++, and I tried to do it in Python, and I thought I knew something about Python, but that knowledge is 15, 20 years old, and so I'm an idiot. So I'm going to do everything in C++ for the moment, and then we'll worry about doing it in Python. So
you were doing this on a Raspberry 4 or a 3?
On a 4.
4.
It just doesn't have enough memory.
Okay.
The CPU clock cycles is not that. I mean, it's important, right? But the 3 just runs out of memory at some point when you're trying to build packages and do things. Just runs out.
So how is the documentation on the 2? Is it better? Because way back I did 1 and I wasn't overly impressed with the documentation.
The documentation? So far the console, the tutorials I'm going through have been really, really good. And there's a couple of missteps in the binary install that you get. They've missed it. They've left out a package or something, and I've got that written down somewhere, but it's just missing like an OpenSSL package or something that you need to just do an apt-get on it to install on it when you go to make your own packages. But if you don't want to make your own packages, that thing which you do eventually will want to make your own packages, I'm pretty sure. The standard install on that for a Linux on a Raspberry Pi 4 works just like in the documentation. I mean, yeah, the only maybe a little bit different here because you need to become an administrator a time or two, and they don't call it out, but it's pretty evident that you just walk right through that, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's better and it is straightforward. And I haven't played with ROS 1 enough, but I've seen a few of those videos. I'm like, I don't know, this feels pretty good with how they're doing some of the stuff they're doing and how they're lining it out and organizing things. Yeah, it feels pretty good.
Ray, are you able to talk in a non-robotic voice or a robotic voice? You're muted, by the way.
He looks frozen.
Yeah, he keeps getting frozen.
And he may be frozen again, it looks like, based on what I'm seeing. In other words, it's been 2 times got drop.
Yeah, I think his connectivity is a bit suffering. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. You're on.
Okay. That might be big again.
So Ray, you're on mute, and then you're not.
I think
you are.
Yeah.
And your face is frozen.
Oh.
There's moving. So. Very slow.
He's getting his bits delivered by the Pony Express or something, I guess.
Yeah. Must be every other bit type thing.
Well, Doug, what's up with you? You're muted, by the way. I just got a phone call here. Yes, sir. Yes.
So, Doug, how are you doing?
Oh, I was okay, he's on mute.
I'm back.
Okay, I'm sure that Murray was on mute. Actually, my wife's situation has been such that I really haven't been able to do too much We got some kind of, I guess you can say, goodish news today. She's been doing an experimental treatment, and it didn't get rid of the cancer, but it seems to have kept it at the same level. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. So, we'll know more next week when we go in with the doctor and get her CT scans reviewed and everything. But yeah, so robots are a little kind of on the edge of my right now. So, but I am interested. I'm listening to everybody. So.
Okay. Well, as I said before, when you do have a chance, I don't know if we got that video downloaded from Saturday or not yet.
It's up there.
I was going to say, when you have a time, look at it. It was good.
Well, I was there Saturday, so I saw it.
Okay. Well, you see, I don't remember who all was there. I know that there were like 18 or 19 plus people.
Yeah. And it was a good one. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, ROS 2 is not in my critical path for my robots, but it is very intriguing, and I can see why it would be, if you wanted to go learn ROS 2, it might be a really interesting thing to do. But like I say, right now in my particular robotic short-term goals, it's not really there yet. I've got other things that I have to do first. I need to really. I'm still working with the Max bit, and it's not its problem. It's my problem. I'm having, my Python knowledge is real basic. So, and instead of looking it up, what I tend to do is, like, well, this syntax ought to work, and something will be wrong with it, and I have to do it again and again. And some simple things, because they're, I think with the video you're dealing with like lists of lists of lists, and sometimes getting them to go through each one of the items in a particular list is a little more complicated than I thought. So anyway, but every once in a while I get to put a couple hours on it, and I'm making a little progress.
Well, Doug, I can possibly offer you some help. I don't know. I mean, I'm hardly a Python expert, but I have been, as you know, writing my particular operating system in Python, and I'll just put in the GitHub repository for mine, because I've got a lib directory, a library directory, which has got like a logger and all sorts. So I just posted it, and there may be syntax examples for you. I've got a message queue and all sorts of stuff. It's all in Python.
Thank you, Murray. That's a great idea. Like I said, I don't think my problems are that deep. I think they're more like I just need to spend a day or two on it,
Sure.
As opposed to an hour here, 30 minutes there.
Yeah. Well, if you have any questions, certainly just email me. I'll be happy to.
Well, I'll bring it up here, because that's what this is for.
All righty. Well, I suppose I could describe what I've been doing. I think some of you got that I had some advice from David Anderson, which was to focus, which is good advice. And so I'll probably first talk about this, which is this Jetson Xavier NX, which is not bricked, but I'm just about ready to throw it through a window. I'm so, I put like $800 into the thing. I've got the memory card on the back and everything, and there's just no way to run it off the memory card. Like, I've got an 500 gig SSD, and the thing wants to run off the SD card. And I've tried everything. I've spent hours on this thing trying to get this to just boot up off the M2 SSD rather than the SD card. And from what I can tell, there's no way to do it. I've tried putting the boot partition on the SD, and and because I'm going to focus on my robot, this thing is just almost in the bin right now. I'm so ticked off at it. The documentation, yeah, exactly, Ray. I mean, it's like the documentation is good for running it off an SD card, but you would think that something as expensive as this and as leading edge as this could be easily run off an SSD card with a couple put one on the back. And I'm just like, and I just blame NVIDIA. They just obviously are throwing all this thing, but they're not really getting through the guts of getting it really running, which is it should out of the box run off an SD card and then boot up onto the SSD, and there should be some simple way to do that. Here I'm copying directories across and R-syncing, and it's kind of dumb. Anyway, that aside, I've been back to working on my KR01, my main robot, and that I2C master slave thing, and that's now working. I could do a demo of it, but it's nothing to look at really. But basically, what I've got is an itsy bitsy on my robot that is hooked up to that integrated front sensor, which has all the bumpers and infrared sensors, and it does all the handling of those sensors, and then through an I2C master-slave relationship with the Raspberry Pi, sends on to the Raspberry Pi what it sees. And so that offloads all the front sensor stuff to the itsy bitsy, and the Raspberry Pi just gets a bunch of messages into a message queue. So the way I've got my operating system written is that anything like a bumper or any kind of sensor can send messages into a message queue, and they're prioritized by what kind of message they are. So a bumper obviously has a higher priority than an infrared. And so it floods the message queue with messages, and then there's an arbitrator that prioritizes those and dumps the highest priority back to the controller, which tells the robot what to do. So that's, in a nutshell, kind of the operating system as I've written it. And I've now got this I2C slave sending its messages into the message queue, and it works. So it's kind of a success. I've got the hardware is working, the master-slave relationship works fine, and I can dial up the speed. And I mean, I'm not trying to tax it too hard, but it's, you know, running at, I think it's 20 on a 20 millisecond loop. There's no issue at all. So yeah, it's been quite successful. And at some point I'll actually get the robot running with the front sensors and maybe do a video or something like that, and then write it up in a blog entry. I'm not quite there yet, but I've just in the last couple of days got that master slave thing running. And so what basically I've got one Python file called front, and that's the whole integrated front sensor. And when that fires up, it connects with the I2C slave and gets all of its messages, and then fires messages as it sees them coming in from the robot. So that's been like a, you know, month and a half of dallying around that, but I've actually got it running now, so that's good. So I can hope. I've got to get another piece of polycarbonate for the front of the robot because I've changed the front so much that the piece I had is too small. But once I've got the right size polycarbonate bumper on the front, I can actually set the robot free and let it run around and bump into things. Mm-hmm. And but that's basically, I think, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. Oh, I did have a little bit of other news is I think I've also mentioned that one of the some friends of ours have two girls, and the 10-year-old is very keen to get into robotics. And I had been searching around for a suitable platform for a club robot. And in the end, based on the available documentation, hardware, all that kind of stuff, I decided to go with a microbit. Mm-hmm. And so I've gone ahead and purchased a robot for her. Her dad will pay me back. And I ended up with the WaveShare AlphaBot 2. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But it's got the micro metal gear motors, the nice little motors. It's a nicely made robot. It's got infrared, ultrasonics, and it runs on a microbit Raspberry Pi 4 Arduino, and we got her the microbit version. So that should be hopefully a few weeks, and we'll have a 10-year-old girl with a new robot. She's actually keen to learn Python, she said. So see how that goes. Start her on the graphic. It's called Microsoft Make Code, I guess. We can start her on that, and as soon as she's got that going, we can switch her over to Python. And I guess I'll be helping her with Python. So she's very keen. She's a really bright young girl, and she's kind of ready to get into this, and I gave her a whole. There's a page on my wiki with a whole list of different microbit robots, and she decided she wanted the AlphaBot 2, which is actually probably the nicest robot on the page. Not flashy, doesn't have all the LEDs and everything, but it's a good solid robot, I think. So I almost wanted to buy one myself, but that would be me going out of focus again. So,
is Scratch a graphical program? I think it comes with the Raspberry Pi, doesn't it?
you can actually program this robot in Scratch as well, I think, or is it? I can't remember if it's that or because DF Robot puts out. There was some other ones that were competing in the microbit category, and they're called the McQueen Lite and the McQueen Plus, and those can be programmed in Scratch. And I think actually the microbit can also be programmed in Scratch.
Yeah.
I
looked at it, very briefly, but it looks, it's another graphical thing where you're just concatenating blocks and doing that kind of stuff. So
I think that the microbit as a learning platform, I mean, that's obviously what it was designed for by the BBC, and just the amount of information that's available on that, even if you don't want to get into robotics, just using that as a device, it seemed to be a real win. I mean, I could have pushed her into an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi, and there was advantages to those, but in the end, for a 10-year-old, I thought that the microbit was the best because it kind of gives you a complete environment in a device. You don't have to learn Linux. You don't have to learn Python at the beginning. You're not learning C++, which is a valuable language, but for a 10-year-old who might in 10 years want a job, Python's probably a better intro as a programming language, I think, than C++. So in the end, that kind of was, those are all the different things that I thought about. In fact, I even wrote that up on my wiki page about the microbit, basically just saying that given all those variables, that seemed like the best thing for a 10-year-old girl. And it seems like a really capable robot as well. So that's all the news from this end of the world.
So next week you'll show us a demo or something you're setting, your plan?
Are you talking about my robot or her robot?
Well, your robot. You were saying something. Well, you could show something, but
the only thing I can show is the messages coming over the message bus as I wave my hand in front of the robot. So it's not visually that interesting.
Okay.
But basically, I can show the robot pretty easily. Let's see if we can pick it up here. So the robot is currently plugged into a power supply. So there's the robot. And the Makita batteries have just come out with a 6 amp hour battery. So it's now running on a 6 amp hour battery rather than a 3 amp hour. And it only weighs 70 grams more than the previous battery. So battery technology's come a long way. Can you guys see that at all?
Yeah.
So basically, I've done a lot of sort of incremental improvements. The wiring's a lot better. The harnesses are a lot cleaner. This whole front sensor now, it comes off and it has a single set of connectors to the Itsy Bitsy. And so that whole assembly of the front bumper and the Itsy Bitsy, which is right there, basically is a lot cleaner as a design. Now there's just an I2C connector to the Raspberry Pi, and the whole front of the robot now just communicates over one connection, which is a lot easier to deal with in terms of wiring and in terms of programming. I'm just now going to get a bunch of events sent by the front sensors. And from a programmatic standpoint, that's a lot easier to deal with. And so, yeah, this is getting there, and hopefully I'll have a demo for you, John, soon.
Okay.
As David pointed out to me in an email, he kind of put through the steps of getting towards functionality, and the one takeaway was let your robot run and run it and run it and run it. Just keep running your robot. Don't sit there and talk about robots. Just get it running. And it's sort of, that was the message, is just stop faffing about and just make your robot run, and you'll learn stuff by finding out what it does wrong and then fix that, and you just keep doing that. But playing with wires and playing with programming, if you don't actually run your robot, you're not doing anything. So
The key is you have to start from somewhere and then build blocks to work up from there.
Yeah.
But I think his point was well taken, is that I can sit there and spread my energies all over the place and never have a functional robot. And so kind of basically, start at the foundations and work your way up, getting the robot to move first and then move in a straight line and then react to a bumper and, just kind of add those functions on top rather than jumping in the middle and saying, I'm going to have a fancy camera on the front that can react to, yellow balls that move. So I'm taking his advice seriously and trying to just get this thing at its most basic with those infrared and bumper sensors in the front, just to be able to do that before I jump into the next level of complexity.
Sounds like a good plan. So tomorrow we'll see it move with the sensor, right?
Yeah.
So one thing, Murray, that I was sort of surprised about was that, having a group of sensors run to a dedicated micro, so that you essentially have I don't know how I want to say it. You have it's just basically you've made a smart sensor. All right, if you want to think of it that way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a good example of that is the Pixicam, where all it tells you is where the blobs are.
Right.
It doesn't tell you otherwise. It calculates how to find the blobs and all of that stuff. It just tells you where they are.
Right,
so you have a smart sensor. You don't really have a camera. You have a smart sensor.
Camera as a sensor.
Yeah. So, but at least in the ones I've been working with, I usually have a controller handling that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And I would, what I would have the Raspberry Pi be doing is stuff that's like the heavy lifting. Right. Otherwise, I wouldn't be communicating my front sensor bank to the Pi. I'd be doing it to whatever's running your motors, probably. You probably have some micro running your motors, most likely. You're not probably running them from the Raspberry Pi.
No. In fact, I'm using a Thunderborg, so that's an I2C connection, and it does you basically just tell it what you want it to do, and it handles that for you. So it kind of offloads the processing, so I don't have to do any PWM or anything like that. I just...
Oh, okay. All right. Well, maybe you are. Okay. I'm just trying to sense why your use of the Pi is a little different than what I'm envisioning with mine, and that's why I'm trying to figure out why you're doing things that way.
Well, the way I'm looking at it is that the Pi is the main robot's brain, and so this itsy bitsy just acts as a handler for lots of noise. Like you've got all the infrared sensors and bumpers and things like that. And Arduino is really good at handling high-speed communication with that kind of thing. And what I want the Pi to be concentrating on is, like you said, sort of the more advanced programming. So the Python-based operating system is written for the Pi, and it's handling the decision-making that the robot will make. And then the itsy-bitsy is just sending data. And so that's the kind of division of labor, is that the itsy-bitsy just sends in Booleans for the 3 bumpers, and then 0 to 255 for each of the analog infrareds. There's 5 of them, 2 on the sides, 1 in the center, and then a port and starboard. And so I'm just sending back 8 values from the itsy-bitsy to the Pi, and then the Pi just interprets that and decides how to deal with that information. And previously, I had the Pi doing all that, but from both a hardware and a software perspective, it was easier, effectively, it's like a module now. Both hardware.
Yeah, exactly. It's a sensor. Your, like you say, you call it the front end. It's your front end sensor.
Right.
You don't worry about the parts of it. You just
exactly.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about it is that now it's connected to the Pi as a master-slave relationship, and it just sends messages into the message bus, which is or the message queue, I should say, which is how all of the sensors were meant originally to function. Now all I've done is just have this one module, the integrated front sensor, that sends in 8 different kinds of messages depending on what is sensed.
Yeah, so what you're basically doing is kind of like is like a ROS. Otherwise, your sensor is publishing, and your other guy is consuming.
Yes,
So,
publish and subscribe is the
Harold,
model.
I know I saw Harold walk off, but I'm curious if I don't know. Is the communication on ROS all serial, or do they have ways to communicate, publish I2C? Well, I guess you could turn it into serial if you needed to. I mean, there's no difference between I2C and serial if if you had to.
I mean, the way
actually TCP/IP for most of the messaging protocols are TCP/IP for process to process, and then you have to integrate it.
So I think beyond, but remember also beyond the refill data.
I've got a conflict, so I can't be talking too much.
Also
but,
get
okay, gotcha.
Any other, that way you capture data from.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway.
Yeah, I think basically in the in the big world of programming, there's a model or a pattern called publish and subscribe, which you kind of alluded to, and the idea of having a message queue or a message bus, and publishing to that message queue all the messages with information about what's going on, and then having subscribers on that bus pulling information off. That's effectively the model that I'm using in Python. Is that I've got the Raspberry Pi sits there and subscribes to this message bus, and the sensors just send messages into it that are prioritized based on what kind of message they are.
But I'm going to say that's essentially ROS.
Okay, all right. Well, it's a sensible way to do things.
Yeah. So okay, that's what I was curious if. Okay. I think I got it.
And David Anderson was interested, and I was trying to, I think I posted it to the list, basically, kind of a brief description of the overall model of what this is. And of course, I've posted here to the code. So I don't know that code would, in toto, be useful to anybody because it's tailored to this particular robot. But it does have a lot of features, like it's got a YAML configuration file. And if someone wanted to grab all that code and rewrite it for their own robot, it wouldn't be too difficult because you just change the YAML configuration, use different pins on the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
So you could basically pull it apart and reuse pieces of it. It's not really been written in mind of multiple robots, although I do plan to use it for my Mecanum robot, same operating system.
That's cool.
When I get to that point. So, yeah.
Well, I wonder if Kareem had anything he was going to. It sounded like he was in the middle of a discussion, so I don't know if he can talk.
So
I can't really. I've got a second thing going on at the same time, so I was mostly listening in.
Okay.
How does that?
I think the answer.
He's actually in 2 virtual meetings. So,
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, we got somebody here called
Satya Dev.
Satya Den.
Hi, I think I met all of you guys when the marketplace, makerspace was open.
Oh yes.
Okay, let me turn on my video so that you guys.
That was probably last year, I'm thinking, or maybe.
It was last Saturday, right? You went to the Microsoft talk on Saturday, didn't you? No, you didn't. Oh, okay.
No, I didn't.
No, I'm thinking last year. Yeah, I remember the face, but I can't tell you which month it was. But I'm thinking last year.
Yeah.
So yes.
So are you got anything going, or have you been working on anything?
Right now, I'm working on my heads-up display. I mean, it's not yet ready, so I'm just working on that.
Yeah.
So I don't have much information on that either to share with you guys. Maybe next week I can.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And Ray, are you able to talk now? Go on mute.
I can try it and see what happens. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I was playing around with the excuse me. Playing around with the WM3901, and trying to use a line laser and just see how well it showed up with that part. And it looks like it shows up I just grabbed some code, from examples, just off of YouTube videos, and it's way too slow. It updates like probably once every 2 seconds or so, so very slow.
Oh.
It looks like the laser line does show up in it, and I got. I'm going to try this and see if it works, just to show you what it looks like in an image. Actually got the OpenMV H7 with a laser line, or line laser set up. And let me try it here. See if I can get it to power up. I'm going to go in presentation mode. Let's see if I can do that. Okay, pop-ups. Share. Okay.
What?
Okay. Presenting to everyone. That's weird. Huh. Not certain why that did that. I'm presenting to everyone. Yes, that's great. You can't see my screen though, right?
No.
No. Okay, I am presenting.
That's crazy.
I'm going to get out of that and try it again. Present now. Okay. Usually you do your entire screen when you present, right? Not just a window.
Right, yes.
Okay. Share. I don't know what's going on.
Nope.
Well, what we're seeing, Ray, is your instance of Google Meet, so we can see you. So you're not putting your presentation to the front.
Oh, okay. Huh.
What was that game show with people in the squares?
Hollywood Squares?
Hollywood Squares?
Hollywood Squares, yeah, that's what it's like, yeah.
Some of that stuff, you can find some clips on YouTube and whatnot. Some of that stuff was really, really funny because it had all comedians, and
Paul Lind, I remember Paul Lind.
Oh yeah, he was pretty funny.
Well, I'm not certain why it is not doing that. It usually works. Huh.
Oh, and I think they had a bunch of writers, so these folks knew what the questions were, so they had witty lines.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it was set up.
Yeah.
So Ray, go ahead and do your presentation in your little square, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work.
Okay, I can give it a try. Let's see here.
Are you pinned or something like that? Oh no, there you are. We can see your screen now.
Okay.
Yeah. Look at all those icons.
Yep.
Come on, open it up.
There we go. Cool.
Okay. Let's see. I tried that earlier, but my bandwidth was so horrible. Examples. Purple shutter. Okay, can you see this little image up here?
Yep.
Hey, grab the corner and make it bigger, right?
Let's see. I don't.
Yeah, you can do it.
How about that? A little bit bigger.
That works. A little bit, but you can grab the corner and make that. Oh, you can make that window much bigger. There you go. Go sideways. Now go down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sideways again.
Aha.
Okay. Okay. Now we can see it. And
Yeah,
I guess
that's
the bright lights. Yeah.
Okay, so the laser is, you know, the line laser is working, and that's like if I'm trying to see it there on my hand.
Yes.
On the right part of the screen. These two objects are much closer in. It's just a battery module and a cardboard box. Anyway, that's with the camera tilting down a little bit. Things that are further down in the image are closer, so you can use that and the brightness of the laser to figure out where you are in, or you know, what's in your field of view, and navigate with it. So if you already have a camera on your system, the little lasers and line lenses are pretty cheap. You can even do it with just a red laser. You know, those are really cheap.
Yeah, I got them from China for about $3.
Yeah, yeah. So they can be really inexpensive, and you can just look for you know, a red line in your image. So if I move it, shift it left or right, you should be able to see that, you know, some of those things disappear, but it's at the same level. So it's just I'm just moving the field of view of the laser around. So, and even in where it's shining into, well, that's kind of dark there, but into the bathroom here, it increases or goes up. So, you know, that's further back in the scene. So, and you can tilt this down. I can tilt it down a little further. And, you know, well, yeah, that's about it with this setup.
How far from horizontal do you think is an ideal angle?
It's difficult to say. I think, you know, this is a fisheye lens, so I can tilt it down quite a bit and still get, you know, most of the image in. That's in, you know, directly in front of the robot. But yeah, it would just be a thing of calibrating, say, if the image is so far down on the screen, and it's independent of the size of the image, or sorry, the size of the object, as to, you know, where it appears in the, you know, in the image. You know, because the laser's hitting all things kind of parallel to the, you know, the surface that the robot is sitting on. So anyway, I was trying to do this with the PMW 3901, but like I said, the software that I grabbed off, you know, just off the internet, and I think YouTube videos, was extremely slow, and I could see it in the image. The person that decided he was going to translate, you know, pretty much a grayscale into colors. So I don't know, his color choices are really strange, and he's got, as far as I was concerned, way too many colors in the range. So yeah, you know, it's hard to say what is brighter than, you know, one color versus the next, because I don't know, they all seem to have about the same brightness. So it's just kind of a rainbow of dots. But it's others just used a black and white image. I think that was, you know, you could actually see, you know, an image that made more sense. It wasn't just kind of a
would it make more sense to go to just a smaller, instead of a fisheye, to go to a smaller field of view, so that your line wasn't curved?
You could, yeah, you can. You know, your field of view is just narrower, so I guess if that works, if you don't need to see, you know, too far left, right, up, down, yeah, you could go with a narrower field of view lens.
Because it's really interesting, this view image here. because the walls are so far back, not only do you see the height jump, but you also see an intensity decrease.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yep, yeah, because beams getting spread out.
And and if you look into the closet or the open doorway there, what's coming on to us is I can see the line, but it's really, really dim.
Oh yeah, it's kind of dark in there, probably by and it's it's hitting at a pretty shallow angle, so it's just
It'd be
bouncing off the
interesting
cabinet in there.
to make measurements of like how much displacement downwards you get for the delta distance. I don't know if you would get that distance between you. I don't know if it'd be the distance between your camera and the reflection. I think that might be an intensity thing. And the drop in line might be a matter of distance between the backstop and where your object is.
Yeah, if you have a backstop, I mean, I guess you could be going down a long hall, and the beam would be so spread out and faint at that point that you might not even be able to see it. But one of the other
but you might, if you does that line go up and down the farther it is?
Up and down. What do you mean, the laser line?
Well, the main line, your base line in the background, that's the one. The diffused line is as you go closer, it gets closer. It would be where the bright spot was.
Yeah, where these are now.
I'm just thinking out loud here. Yeah,
it's almost perfectly, not quite horizontal, but it's a little rotated. But it's not
take that object that you got there and put it by the scissors.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's even further down because it's closer in front of the laser.
Yeah.
So that's, it's definitely useful. Use it.
Yeah, but I'm thinking, what if you took a series of objects, or just took a board? Okay, took a board, put it at a horizontal, took a board and put it at a diagonal in front of your laser. So you got an infinite, you get a changing distance, and you would get a changing line.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying? You take maybe like a 4-foot piece of wood, go out and say 2 feet in front of the lens, and put one end down, and then continue to slide the other one backwards, so you had a diagonal. You follow?
Yeah.
And you might be able to actually make some calculations, like which pixel on your camera would be at what distance.
Oh yeah, you can definitely do it, and it if it depends on how much tilt the camera, the angle of the field of view, because you'll get some with this is a fisheye lens actually, so you'll get some distortion there. Usually like the doorways look a little curved.
But you could probably map that if you were for a given lens and a given tilt angle, you could correct for that.
Yep. And one of the other things I did, I actually got their bandpass lenses for different wavelengths of light. So this one, it's actually mounted on a filter switch. So that's the filter switch, and if you look at this filter, it looks like a mirror basically. You can see yourself in it, and so it doesn't pass light through it, visible light anyway, but it will pass the infrared light of the laser, and so that's a thing that you can do. You can actually, and most security cameras have a setup like this. It's called a filter switch, and you can, like at nighttime, you want to be able to use the infrared sensing capabilities of the camera, and so it'll switch to no filter. And then in the daytime, especially for color cameras, you want the correct colors to come through, and you want the infrared filtered out because it changes what the it changes what the colors look like. It changes it quite a bit with the infrared part. So, and actually the there was that where I could attach that to back. There's a couple. I don't know if you can see them or not, but there's a couple screw holes. And you just pulse it. There's 2 wires and a little basically just a filter switch they refer to it as. So that's what I was hoping to do with the BMW 3901, and I've seen some videos of it. They didn't use any bandpass filters, but it makes it so much better because it filters out all the other wavelengths of light. It just lets the wavelengths of light from the laser go through it, so you get a clearer image of. It appears a little bit brighter, I think. It's kind of hard to hold it up, but yeah, basically just blocks out all the other light. So, and this is it's a global shutter, and this one, I don't know if you can see the frame rate there.
You're frozen right now.
Yeah, 215 frames per second, which is screaming right along. Yeah. And they're also good for kind of a range of, I think they just have better dynamic range. They can tolerate low light. They work at much slower frame rates, or very bright light where they'll very high fill rates. Mm-hmm. So just for room lighting over 200. So. Anyway, so I just wanted to show that if you ever get a camera, and you can, it's very easy to try the setup, and you not only look for objects, but laser avoid obstacles if you want to, and figure out how far things are away.
Now, Ray, I have one dumb question. Anyway, is you said you can use a small cheap laser, but I'm assuming that your laser is spinning or something like that?
No, it has a line lens on it, and it looks like a small Fresnel lens.
Oh, okay.
On the front of it, and so it's actually a series of dots, and it just looks like a line, and it's a little bit out of focus. I can focus it a little bit sharper than what it is right now. But
where do you get one of those lenses?
There's a guy in Texas.
eBay
website. I think it's Axis. It's AIXIZ.com, and he sells filters. Some of the other filters I just got off of eBay because I didn't have to buy a bunch of them, and they're for what they're like little, maybe 3/8 of an inch discs. This one's circular. I don't know if you can see it there, but
yeah.
It just happened to fit in this filter switch.
Okay. But if I've got my little tactical Chinese $3 laser, can I use that laser for that purpose?
I think you can. If you just filter out and look for red, or whatever color the laser is, red or green.
It's red. Yep, it's red.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, drive my
Yeah, you
cat
should be
crazy
able
with this
to,
thing.
you know. Oh, yeah.
Or you might.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's bright enough.
Yeah, it's works pretty well.
Okay, so Murray, just go to eBay and look up line laser.
Okay.
Okay, you can get them for red. You can get them very cheap, dirt cheap. You can get crosses, and what I'm saying is, what you can do is you can throw away the laser if you want to use that particular laser, and just change the lens in front of it.
Okay.
And so.
Well, I don't really use my laser on my gun, so.
Yeah, it might be a little more powerful, is what I'm thinking.
Ah, yeah. This is not. I don't think this is a very powerful laser. I mean, it's probably got a. Says on it something. Well, I can't read it. In any case.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Ray,
Ray, could you put
that looks like a really interesting project.
Ray, could you put that link for that vendor?
Sure. Yeah.
In the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's like I said, you had the the PMW 3901, and I think you can do that with that, so you can probably use it as the universal odometry and optical avoidance sensor, and they're less expensive than any of the cameras are, and what you have to have behind the camera to drive it, like Raspberry Pi or OpenMV H7 or Max Pi or any of those. So anyway, I'm gonna cancel.
Well, thank you.
Okay, hey Murray, I'm just looking on eBay. You got to be careful because that's how they use those levels. Laser line levels will have the same type of lens in it.
Oh yeah.
But you can get a little 650 nanometer red laser diode with a cross-lined lens for $1.85. Actually, it says 88 cents to $1.81.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, so what I want to make sure is don't go out and buy a $40 laser. You know what I mean? To get the lens, you can buy the lenses a lot cheaper.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do for the Mecanum robot. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I've actually got two of the PMW 3901s. I've got two of them now, as Kareem had sort of noted the idea of putting them off center. But that's a bit in the future. As I said, I'm going to focus on just getting my robot running before I get into the advanced playing around with tools that I haven't quite got running yet.
Yeah.
That's insane. All those different things for like just a few bucks for doing that's just insane.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
they're
insane, but it's insane.
Maybe just looking on eBay.
I was just checking my AliExpress order for my motors for my robot that have the encoders on them and all those sorts of things, and I'm like, I was excited because it's like, whoa, the status on it changed. So because you're shipping from China forever, right? And then so I said, so it changed the track of the order. Now this is coming from China to me, in Dallas, right? And apparently it just got dropped off at ISC Miami, Florida, USPS. It missed me by a few thousand miles. I'm just thinking,
Well, at least it landed.
Yeah, at least
I've been waiting for stuff for one of it went to 90 days and it canceled. And I did get a refund on it from Banggood, but the other stuff, it's I don't know. I think they found the slowest ship they could find and put it in containers somewhere in the bottom of the hold. I don't know if it's ever going to make it here.
I have thought about this, and I imagine how some of this works. Is that yes, we ship these things, and it goes into a bucket, and that bucket goes into a bunch of containers with a bunch of other buckets, and until that big container gets full, nothing moves, or to a certain level of fullness, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I think the
There-
one
there-
is sitting on in the truck in China somewhere.
Yeah.
So I tell you, it's frustrating. I hate waiting for stuff, and it's kind of like, oh, guys, you're gonna make me go 90 days now before I can, get a refund. So.
You guys love living down here, I guess. Everything takes a long time to get here.
Oh God, but 90 business?
No, not 90 days. No. And in
Oh.
fact, it's kind of bizarre because some stuff shows up really fast and other stuff. And actually, we get stuff from China relatively quickly. Like I put in, I think I mentioned an order of like 5 different orders on AliExpress, and all but one of them have now showed up, and it's only been 3 weeks.
Wow. God,
Yeah.
I wish I had that situation.
But right now in Wellington Harbor, there's this absolutely enormous container ship. I've never seen one as big as that before. It's you can't see the containers that are all inside the ship. It looks like a giant box. It's just the most strange. I think a friend of mine said it was the ugliest ship he'd ever seen. And
you need to take a picture of it. I'll be curious to see the picture.
It doesn't look like a ship. It just looks like a giant shoebox.
That's why I'm curious about the picture. So yeah, snap a picture. I'll be curious.
Yeah. But once those ships arrive in Wellington Harbor, all of a sudden we get flooded with all this stuff that we've hopefully ordered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've seen a couple of pictures of, like rough seas and, the ship actually losing containers in the ocean. It's like, oh no, that's my order.
Yeah.
So, a bunch of Nike tennis shoes start floating up on beaches. And, all kinds of junk like that.
So basically, Ray, your order ended up in the giant garbage patch floating in the middle.
Yeah, probably. So, yeah, it's like, oh no, I lost the container.
Yeah. Well, the one that we've got in Wellington Harbor, you can't even see the containers. They're all inside the ship. The ship has got these tall vertical walls that just go up, I don't know, 100 and some odd feet, and the whole thing looks like a giant box. It doesn't look like a ship at all.
Yeah, yeah. That probably came from, the designer saying, boy, we've lost a lot of containers at sea. Maybe we should make the walls taller,
Yeah. You can't see the containers at all, unusually.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was in, I guess it was Wellington. Anyway, I took the ferry down to the South Island.
Yeah.
And on the way there, they show this. On the way, they show this video of a big storm they had in, like 85 or something. And, the trucks inside are being rattled around, and the little cars are getting squished.
Oh yeah, I've been on that ship.
Everybody. It looks like, not too many survivors out of that one,
No, I've been on that boat with 9-meter swells with the whole boat's going up and down,
Yeah.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a photo of my wife on, it was the ferry, and she gets like progressively greener as we get away from the North Island, and the seas were pretty rough. They didn't tie any of the vehicles down.
That's
we rented
the strange thing. Yeah, they don't. I drove my car and I just parked it and left it. But maybe that's because they weren't expecting big swells, because they can chain them down.
Yeah. And
but when we went, it was like glass. So
yeah.
Yeah.
But you can imagine that the water flooding between the South Island and the North Island, that when they get a flood, I don't even know what the level of current is, but it's just, from the Pacific into the Tasman Sea, floods through that. And with the wind in the right direction or the wrong direction, it's a crazy place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we were lucky to get on that ferry because the seas were starting to get rough. But yeah, my wife actually owned boats when she was younger. They used to go out to the lake all the time, water ski, but can't handle lately. Can't handle the seasickness anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah. Right. I wonder if Kareem is still in a conference call or not. He still looks like an international man of mystery. I need to get a photo of me.
There, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should all do them. I don't know if I could do it or not. I'll try to.
I think that's about it, isn't it, then?
No.
Probably.
Yeah, I guess so. Unless Carl wants to pop back in, I don't know if he's listening in. That'd be the question there.
I think he had something to do.
He didn't say
Hey
how,
guys,
for how long.
I don't have anything to share tonight, so sorry about that. Boring.
That's okay, Carl.
Okay. Carl, I didn't know if you wanted to stop the recording or you.
Yeah, that's right. Here, well, thanks everybody. A great evening. Here, we're gonna hit the end button.
Okay.
See you guys next week, hopefully.
Bye. See ya. Hopefully.